Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
I'm an alcoholic. I'm Deezer D. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank God for my sobriety. Without God, none of this would be possible. I heard you. I want to thank the speaker who was just up here. And you said, I heard you say, I talk about God a lot, but I'm sorry. And the book talks about God a lot. So if you're in the book, they're going to be talking about God a whole lot. And that's the only reason why I'm sober. Welcome to the new people here in Alcoholics Anonymous. If you're new in here, this is a good place to be. Thank you, Strawberry, and whoever else that was that called me up to come speak. I really appreciate being here. It's a privilege and honor to speak at any meeting in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm just grateful to be sober here, and I'm grateful to be here. This was one of my first meetings when it was on the old Rodeo back in the day. I was actually in there in 1990, but I just didn't, I went out for another 2 years, but, I was there. And it was a blessing back then, it's a blessing now, and it's a blessing to be here. So anyway, I'll just get right into it. Where's the clock at around here? There's no clock. You give me 5? Okay. 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 I come from a family of alcoholics, and my father was alcoholic in my family. I grew up in a city called South Central LA, and then we moved to another city called La Puente. So it was really like moving from the ghetto to the hood. It wasn't really much of a difference, you know what I'm saying? One was just like a bunch of black people, and another one was a bunch of Latino people, and they all gangbang. And that's where I grew up at. And I grew up in a neighborhood where everybody was doing their thing. Everybody was, drinking and using and selling dope and the whole nine, and you just kind of get in where you fit in. But, one of the things I like to say is I don't really blame my parents or anybody for my alcoholism. It was nobody, because I have 2 brothers and a sister, and none of them ended up in this program. I was the one that ended up in this program. My father was alcoholic in my family. My father would say, "Hey, boy, go get me a beer out the fridge." And I'd take a beer and drink it, take a little swig. My sister would take a little bit. We give it to my father. And my father would tell us on another day, "Hey, boy, go get us a beer out the fridge." Pop the beer, take it, the sister drank it. One day he was like, "Where the hell is my beer?" And, my sister didn't end up in Alcoholics Anonymous. I did. And, I always tell people, I know some of you guys probably seen some of my family members on television. And I don't know if you guys ever watch Cops or Jerry Springer or Maury Povich. You see some of my family members on those shows. That's the kind of family I came from. People screaming at each other, yelling at each other. Because that's what we did. That's what they did. They had parties all the time. And they would have these parties, everybody be drinking and feeling good and getting high. And they would fight each other, wanting to kill each other. I mean, knives being pulled out, calling the cops and the whole nine. And you know what? The next week, it'll be all good, and they'll do the same thing over and over again, and they act like it was no big deal. And that's what I saw growing up, My father's side of the family was like a working class family. Everybody worked. My mother's side of the family, you didn't know what anybody did for a living, you know what I mean? What does Uncle Don do? Don't worry about what he do. What about so-and-so? Don't worry about what he do, It's that kind of family, I had an aunt, and she really loved me, and she moved in with us for a while, and she smoked a lot of weed. And she gave me a gift one day, and she gave me one of those weed rollers, or tobacco rollers, okay? And she gave it to me, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." So I took it to school for show and tell. Show and tell. And when they sent me home, I looked at them like, what's wrong? Like, what's the matter? Why? Why you guys sending me home for this? That's how dysfunctional my family is. You said every family was dysfunctional, and that's true. I mean, the only normal is on the wash machine. That's it, you know? Everybody got some dysfunction. Some people just hide it good. That's what it is. They just hide it real good. But that's my family, man, and I love my family, and we're just really crazy, you know? And, I was a good athlete in school. I was very good in school and very good athlete. But when I got to high school, that's when I kind of really started drinking a little bit more. And it all started off, I was going to school and I was a freshman year. And a bunch of guys was drinking by this alley, and it's like this little strip mall and a little church and this little alley, and everybody's drinking, getting high. And I was coming to school, me and some of my boys, and somebody said, hey, you want a drink? And it was no peer pressure. I was like, yeah. And it was a can of Old English 800 malt liquor. And yeah. And it was like the gospel to you right now. Praise God. And when they said, do you want to get high or do you want this? You know, what I heard and what my spirit was saying, you know, do you want to fit in? And I had that can of Old English 800 malt liquor, and I didn't like the way it tasted. But as I kept drinking it, I started to feel a little bit better. You know what I mean? I started feeling like I had it going on, and I went to school, and I thought I had it going on with the Old English 800 malt liquor. But only did it on Fridays. So every Friday, I kind of just started hanging out by the guys, and, you know, hopefully somebody offered me one, and they did, and I would do that. And I did that on Fridays most of the time. And, and after the games, every now and then we'll have a little bit of something to drink after the games. And that's kind of where my drinking career kind of started right there. I used to have a rap group, and what we used to do, we used to sit in the garage, and what we did for rehearsal is we would listen to everybody else's music, play records, drink and get high, and said they suck. That's what we used to do for rehearsal, and we couldn't figure out why we couldn't get a deal. You know what I mean? And we did that every day, man. Hey, man, you gonna go rehearse? Yeah, I'm gonna go rehearse. All right, you gonna rehearse? Yeah. And everybody get together, just start drinking, and we listen to everybody else's music. Be like, oh, man, that sucks. I don't know how they got a deal. Nobody wrote lyrics. Nobody played anything. And then you had two DJs, you know, and that was it. That was it. It was bad. It was real bad. But that's alcoholism. And, you know, some of those same cats today are still in the garage today. Kid you not. And they're still in the garage. And, I thank God that I found this program, Alcoholics Anonymous. When I was in high school, and, I had all these dreams and aspirations to be a basketball player. And my goal was like, I'm going to get out of high school, I'm going to get a scholarship, and I'm going to play basketball somewhere. But I had an ego way back then. And, my senior year, my coach said he wasn't taking any of my crap this year because I thought I was all that. And, one day we used to do these suicides. We used to run, and one day he caught me cheating, and he says, what are you doing? And he called me over there. I remember he grabbed his clipboard and he put it in my neck, and like kind of choking me with it. And I swung on him and I missed, and papers went flying everywhere. And he said, that's it, you're done, you're off the team. And I remember thinking like, I'm not gonna be off the team because they need me, I'm gonna be back on the team. And so as time went on, they started practicing more, and the season was coming up, and I said, man, well, maybe I should go apologize. And I remember it was about 7 o'clock at night, and I went up there, and they just got finished practice. I was waiting for the coach, and I said, hey, coach, can I talk to you for a minute? And he's like, what's going on? I said, I just want to say I'm sorry, and, and the whole time I'm making this amends to him, he's just shaking his head like, no, and he didn't let me back on the team, and, I used to have this football coach, and he used to always tell us, if you don't get serious about your life, some of you guys are going to be gangbangers. Some of you guys are going to be hanging out at the liquor store drinking all the time. And some of you guys are going to be hanging out with Frito. And Frito was our local alcoholic in my neighborhood. Frito was the guy that you would see asking for quarters and change at the store, Frito. And I remember thinking like, nah, that'll never be me. I'm probably going to be playing professional football, baseball, basketball, but I won't be with Frito. Well, the day when I got kicked off the basketball team and the coach didn't let me be back on the team, I went to the liquor store and I was sharing a bottle of Boone's Farm with Frito. And something I said I was going to never do. And there I was drinking a bottle of Boone's Farm with Frito. And one of the most demoralizing things about that happened was my mom drove by and she saw me drinking with Frito. And yeah, she did her head just like that. Just that mama look, you know, just like I would rather get my ass whooped than get that, you know, this look. And that's kind of where it started going downhill from there. Then I was in the neighborhood doing what everybody else was doing. I was drinking. I was in a fake rap group. Nothing was going on. And I had other dreams. And because in school I was trying to be an actor in school, telling everybody I was going to be an actor. So I started taking a bus out to Hollywood and started doing extra work. And I was like King Extra, you know, I was an extra on every show, you know what I mean? And I remember, you know, telling people going back to my neighborhood, yeah, man, I was just in this movie today, you know, I was just in this movie today. I remember one of my friends just called me out and he just said, man, I never seen you in nothing. And he was right, I was never in nothing. If you wanted to see me, you need a pause button and you can see the guy with the red cap and back of yeah, that's me, you know, and I was really, really trying to be an actor, you know, and what I used to do is I used to get high, go on a lot of TV shows and get drunk, and you know how we are. We can find and seek out another alcoholic right away. We know who's using. We can feel that. Like, you know, that's who we are. You know, I said that alcoholics and addicts, we have more faith than any religious group there is. We have more faith than they do. Because the reason why, you can drop us off anywhere and not know anybody, not have any money, and by the end of the day, we're going to get high. So we can't use that excuse, we ain't got no faith. We've just been accessing it in the wrong department. Because that's faith at the highest level. You know, you wake up and you have nothing. Nothing. And someone could drop you off in a town and you know no one. But a real alcoholic addict is going to find somebody to get high with. And it happened many of times. And here I am trying to, you know, make it in Hollywood. And so I started taking a bus out here and I'm drinking on the bus. And I was the guy that I would ask people at the bus stop, hey, you got like 50 cents. 50 cents goes a long way back in the day, 50 cents. You get 50 more cents, okay? You can come up on a court back in the day, you know? And 75 more cents. and I used to just ride the bus and drink 40s and meet people. You know, I was that alcoholic for a long time. I want to get into recovery right away because everybody knows how to drink and use in here pretty well, I would think. But I was drinking and being on the bus and doing this and going back home, lying to people. And then finally I started making it as an actor. I started really doing legit work, started doing some TV shows, commercials, and started working on movies and everything. And my life was going pretty good. And when it started going pretty good, I finally moved out of my parents' house for good after the 6th time. And I moved down to Hollywood and La Brea. You guys know the area of Hollywood, La Brea right there, right? Well, if you know anything about Hollywood, La Brea right there, you notice there's a liquor store right around the corner there, right? And I used to live right there, and I had this drinking problem still with me now that I'm making it, you know. I'm still drinking a little bit too much, and I don't want to lose my career. Everything's going good, so I said, man, maybe I should drink like my father drank. See, my father claimed that he wasn't an alcoholic because he says, I'm not an alcoholic. He goes, I come home every day, I pay the bills, I got money in my pocket, I'm not an alcoholic. So I figured, man, he comes home every day at 4 o'clock, he drinks, do his thing, and he never gets in trouble. So maybe that's what I'll do. So every day at 4 o'clock, I went to that store, got a 40 ounce, put it in the freezer for a while, boom, and then I would drink it. Boom, I'm like my dad. But that don't work for a long time with the alcoholic, not the real alcoholic. So I start going down to the store at 4:45. That way I can put it in the freezer. And then at 4 o'clock, I'll drink it. Then I start going at 3:30. Then I start going at 3:15 because I want to get really chilled, you know. And so I'm drinking. It's 3:45 now and I'm drinking. And another reason why I didn't drink, because I used to have auditions still. At a certain time, they may call you in for a call. And I remember one time they called me in at 4:30, and they said, hey, they want to see you for this part right now. I go, right now? They go, right now. And the 40 was gone already. And I show up at the audition, and I was drunk. And they send me home. And they said they never wanted to see me again because the part wasn't for a drunk guy. And that's when I knew I really started having a problem. And, and I got in a fight over a friend one night we went out, it was over a girl or something like that. And I remember going back to my apartment, my studio apartment with a nice little futon and my TV. I was big ballin' back then. And I'm sitting there and a commercial came on television. And the commercial kind of went something like this. It said, "Are you lonely?" Yeah, I'm lonely. I'm lonely. I'm lonely. Are you depressed? Yeah, I'm depressed. Well, call us at Charter Hospital. We can help you. Okay, I'll call you guys right now. I got insurance. So I called Charter Hospital. I was the guy that called. And I called, and they took my information over the phone, and they said, well, you want to come right now? And you know what us alcoholics always say, no, tomorrow, and I said, no, I'll come tomorrow. And I had this little remedy at nighttime that I used to take these Excedrin PMs because I didn't want my hangovers to be too bad. So I would take Excedrin PMs at night. You'll wake up a little groggy in the morning, but you can work through that. So I wake up in the morning, and there's a knock at my door. And it's my cousin. She said, let's go. I go, where are we going? She says, we're going to the rehab. I go, oh, no, I was tripping last night. My bad. I was tripping. She's like, no, come on, you need to go. Like everybody in my family know I needed to go to the rehab, And like I said, my sister didn't drink. My brother wasn't partying. I was the worst person in my family. I was the white sheep of my family. And he asked me, was I going to say that tonight? I was the white sheep of my family. I was the bad one. And so that's what happens to me when I drink, I start checking myself in, and, I start thinking because I don't know about you guys, when I got drunk, I did crazy stuff. Like, I was the guy that would call you from 5 years ago after high school and be looking through the yearbook. Hey, you remember me? Yeah, I'm an actor now. Yeah, I got a couple of movies coming out, yeah. I was that guy calling people from high school. Yeah, it's real sad. And you know what I thank God for, Strawberry? It was no Facebook back then. Because I would have been posting some crazy stuff right about now. Man, I hope none of y'all relapse, man. It would be bad now when you relapse. You just do some crazy stuff. Anyway, I go to Charter Oak Hospital. I had just finished my first movie. I'm feeling good, and I'm thinking it's a great positive thing. My cousin's taking me to the rehab, and most people go to the rehab. They take a bag or a couple of clothes and everything, but I took luggage to the rehab, and I packed real nice, and I took a bunch of pair of sneakers. I was sponsored by a shoe company at the time. I took some gym shorts. I took some swim trunks. I took a couple of outfits because they might have a dance there. Couple of suits. Because you didn't see the commercial that I saw back in the day. If you would have saw that commercial, that Charter Oak commercial that I saw in the 80s, that commercial said, Charter Oak Hospital, the green meadows, the swimming pool, the gymnasium. So I thought it was going to be something on in there, Mike. So I went and I took all these things with me. Oh yeah, and I just did a movie, right? So I took some headshots too. Yep, I took headshots to a rehab. And that's the part I wish that wasn't in my story because it's so humiliating now. I took headshots to the rehab, and I remember they were doing my intake, and the lady was doing all this stuff and checking everything out. She looked at my picture and looked like this and just threw it. She's gonna play me like that. So here I am at the rehab, and they have you guys come in, and panels will come in. They say, hey, D, you want to come join us? We're doing the 12 steps today. You want to join us? I'll be like, nah, I'm good. I just did a movie, so I'm okay. Okay, D. Then they have another panel coming in. Hey, D, we're doing a big book workshop. You want to come join us? We're going through the big book. Nah, I'm good, man. I just did a movie, so I'm only going to be here 31 days. So, but thanks, man. Thanks a lot. And I thought I was really doing them a favor. And, and the sad part about it is I went in that rehab and I stayed 31 days, and I didn't listen to anything anybody had to say. I didn't listen to anything. All I was thinking about is when I get out, I'm going to be better. Because what I didn't know, my thinking was I just needed to get away from my friends. I just needed to get away from my surroundings. That part was true, but I didn't have anything that they was inculcating to me in the program at all. So I ended up staying after 31 days, man, and I was hanging out with a friend. We was playing some ball, and he went in the store, and he grabbed the bottle, and he said, you want one? No peer pressure? I said, yeah, and I drank it. Didn't call a sponsor. Didn't do anything. The only meeting I went to was the Rodeo meeting. I walked in that meeting, I was like, wow, this is phenomenal. Look who's here and look who's here. I mean, it was like the thing to see back then, right? It was like, if you walked in that meeting, you might have stayed sober for about a week just from that meeting, just from the inspiration back then. And I was like, I never went back to that meeting, man. I stayed in my studio apartment and I drank and I drank and I drank and I drank. And it got pretty bad, and when I was in the rehab, I ended up meeting this crazy lady that was in there, because everybody's in there that was crazy, including myself. And I was promoting, like, this is how sick I was. Like, I was looking for a girl to take to the movie premiere in a rehab. Yeah, some real winners in there, Doing a Haldol shuffle coming down the red carpet. And so I meet this lady, and she wanted to introduce me to this girl she kept telling me about. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I ended up meeting this girl, and she comes down, and we meet. And actually, we started hanging out. She was a cool girl, and went to the movies and everything. And I'm trying to stay sober. And she comes down again, and we hang out again. I'm kind of starting dating her now. And then one day I started back drinking again. I go, oh man, I'm drinking again. And I called her up. I go, you know what? I got to be honest. I'm drinking again. She said, oh, that's okay, as long as you don't get crazy. Okay, cool. Because she didn't know about this program, how deep it was. And I started back drinking, and at that time I started losing stuff, man. And, I was living off of residuals for a while, and, and money was just going. I was going out all the time, going out every night, trying to do it big, and not really was in that position. And I said, man, I got to get away. And she said, well, why don't you move in with me? Maybe you could probably get sober that way. And I forgot to tell you guys, she lived in a city called Yucca Valley. And I don't know if you guys ever heard of Yucca Valley, but if you know anything about Yucca Valley, there's no black people in Yucca Valley. They ain't never seen no black people in Yucca Valley. And it was real different when I went there. And I moved in at nighttime, okay? So it was in the desert. So imagine moving to the desert in the nighttime, and then you wake up in the morning, and you look out the back window, and you just see a tumbleweed rolling in the backyard, just a tumbleweed. And it was like, how did I get here? You know what I mean? Like land of the lost. And then she conveyed to me about there was some people that she knew that was in AA, maybe I can hang out with them. And I saw this guy out and about, and he was drinking. And I said, I don't think the AA thing really works. And then I tried to get sober on my own. Then I ended up doing another job, and I come back to LA, do the job for about 3 months. And as soon as that job's over, I'm back partying again. Do another job, back partying again. And then I finally knew something was going on again, and I needed to get sober, and I didn't know how to get sober. And I was in Yucca Valley, and I looked for that guy she introduced me to who was drinking, because I needed a buddy out there, and I didn't know anybody. So I remember going over his house, and I said, hey, man, you want to party? And he looked at me like I was crazy. He says, no, man, I'm going to an AA meeting. You want to go? And I had nobody to hang out with, so I said, okay. So I took my hot 40 ounce, because it was like, I don't know if you guys know Yucca Valley is like 189 degrees out there, okay? And I took my hot 40, put it in the car, took a sip, walked in the meeting. And the meetings are nothing like the meetings you see here in LA at all, okay? We blessed out here. You got to picture this, and I know it's going to be hard for some of you guys to picture this, but it was like 4 people in that meeting. Everybody was over 60. And if you got everybody together, you had a full set of teeth. And I just remember this dude going, if you want what we have, keep coming back. It's like, wow, man. Let me think about this for a minute. And the crazy thing about it was how sick I was. Before I walked in the meeting, I put my baseball cap on and I put my shades on, and I'm just gonna sit in the back so nobody can notice me, you know? And, but they were doing AA. They were talking about steps, the big book, going to meetings, having commitments. They were doing all that stuff. And I left that meeting, went back and started drinking again, then tried to do it on my own, and I started back drinking again. And then I remember I finally said, you know what? I'm gonna give it a try now. I'm gonna give Alcoholics Anonymous a try. So I'll go back in the meeting, and I would get 29 days. And everybody go, wow, D's gonna have 30 days tomorrow. I would relapse. Get 29 days again. Woo! You gonna do it, right, D? Yeah, tomorrow. Relapse again. I got 29 days like 3 times. I just couldn't get sober. And I was the guy that was bagging on people in meetings like, oh, look at that person goofy. Oh, look at that person stupid. Oh, I don't like that dude. They was all taking chips. They were getting 30 days. They was getting 90 days. They was taking cakes by that time, you know, and it was just starting to get a little embarrassing. And then finally, I just remember after that, the last 29 days, I remember what happened. I had an argument with my girlfriend, and I came out to LA, and I met up with one of my buddies. I said, come on, man, let's drink. He goes, you're drinking again? I go, yeah. He goes, all right, let's go. And he had to go to an audition, so I remember we ended up getting some 40s. I'm waiting for him to come out to audition. I'm drinking. He's still not out yet. I'm drinking his 40 now. He comes out, and we just hit the town. And all I remember was at the end of the night, we had did so many things in that night. That's a long story. But I remember at the end of the night, we was at his house, a bunch of people, and everyone was in the bathroom. Everyone was in the restroom, and they were like, the door was locked. And I thought I was gonna be that guy that get in, but I was that guy that's out. You know that one person that's always stuck outside the bathroom and everybody else is in the restroom? And everybody's doing it, then you can hear all that going on, and you know, you hear all this, you know that, you hear all that going on, and I was like the guy going, hey man, let me in, hold up, hey man, let me in, hold up, and I'm just like out here just trying to get in, man, because all the girls in there, everybody's in there. I'm not in there though, and I'm just like, come on man, let me in, hold up man, hold up, and I can't get in. And I remember just like, I was just tired from drinking. I would drink all day. And it's like probably 1 in the morning now or 2, and I'm tired. And I remember walking out of his hallway, and I was walking in the living room, and there was a girl sitting there, beautiful girl, just a beautiful girl. She didn't party or anything. You could tell she wasn't drunk. And my sorry black ass comes up to her and go, yo, what's up? And I remember the look on her face, and she just went, ugh. I never forget that. It was just, ugh. And I wasn't a pretty drunk either. I'll just tell you right now. I was always sweating. My chin was all fat. It was bad. I needed alcohol for courage, trust me. I ended up going back to Yucca Valley, and I surrendered, and I started going to those meetings. And I asked that dude who said, "You want what we have," that guy. I went up to him and said, "Man, what do I got to do to stay sober?" He says, "You got to do 90 meetings in 90 days. And I said, "Well, how long do I got to go to after that?" He says, "Well, you just got to keep going till you like it." And I thought, damn, I'm going to be going forever, because I didn't like AA at all. But what saved me was when I was going to a meeting, a guy saw me, and he says, "Hey, you." I said, "Who, me?" He goes, "Yeah, you. Have you worked your steps?" I went, "No." He said, "Well, come with me." And I didn't have the AA game like you guys got now, that game where you go, "Oh, yeah, I'm on my 4th step." He caught me slipping, so I went with this guy, and we sat down, and we went through the book every single day. And he took me through the book, and he says, "I'm going to show you your condition. Once I show you your condition, you got to show somebody else, and that's how you're going to stay sober, by taking somebody else through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous." He said, "That's how you're going to stay sober." I go, "What about meetings all that?" He goes, "That works, but this is how you're going to stay sober, working with another alcoholic." And this dude took me through the book every single day. Every day he took me through the book. Thank God for this guy. His name was Bill. I couldn't tell you what happened to Bill after he took me through the steps. He just vanished like King from Kung Fu. He was just gone. You didn't see him anymore. And I started getting serious about the program, and I ended up having a year. And I remember saying I was done with my business. You know, I said I was done with the entertainment business, and I just was going to focus on my sobriety, and that's what I did for 365 days. What I did was I went through that book every day. I went to a meeting every single day, sometimes 4 and 5 meetings in a day for 365 days. When my family had functions going on, I knew what they were going to be doing. There was no need for me to go over there. And if I did go over there, I would visit for a while, and then I end up going back to AA meetings. I lived in Alcoholics Anonymous. I breathed it. You know, I was going to meetings that I didn't like sometimes, but I said, you know what? I knew there was no shortcuts in Alcoholics Anonymous. I knew you had to take that narrow road in order to stay sober. And, and I ended up getting a year sober after that. And after I got that year sober, man, I started working again. And then I got a call out of nowhere. And I get this call, and they say, "Hey, we're doing this TV pilot. If the show gets picked up, we'll sign you on for 5 episodes." I'm like, "What? Okay, cool." And I ended up working on this job for like 15 years after that. And I don't say that to impress any of y'all in the rooms, but it impressed the hell out of me. I need to tell you that right now. Because a good day for me was a 40-ounce, a joint, and you stayed off my pay phone. That was a good day for me back in the day. There was pay phones back in the day, just in case some of y'all don't know that. It was this thing that used to be on the wall. Phone, put quarters and stuff in it. And I ended up staying sober, and I ended up having a pretty opulent life. And and then stuff got real at about 13 years of sobriety. Went through a heavy divorce. And that's the first time I had felt something in Alcoholics Anonymous, 'cause I felt like I had never really went through anything my whole sobriety. And then when that happened, I felt that, this person decided that they didn't want to be married. Was married for 2 years. And I had a son that was 4 months at the time, and she didn't want to be married anymore, and just blew me away. I didn't even know how that felt like to get broken up with like that, let alone be married and get broken up with. And, what I learned to do was what I learned in Alcoholics Anonymous. Take another person through the book. Are you working with another person? And I remember I had moved out of this big house I was living in, and I moved to this little tiny apartment on Sunset. And I remember I called up a bunch of guys, and I said, "Hey, man, I'm having a big book workshop at my house." And I had a bunch of guys on Mondays, and they would come over to my house, and we would go through the book. And I remember every time they would leave, I go, "Man, I still feel like crap. It just still doesn't feel good." I mean, I was in pain. I never felt that kind of pain before. And then it just kept coming. Then my dad had died, and then I had a heart surgery. It wouldn't stop. It was just coming like crazy. And then finally I started getting some peace. And then things started looking up again, and my life started to get a little bit better. And I say this to you to say that Alcoholics Anonymous works if you really, really work in the program. I remember, I used to think, man, if I ever got divorced, man, I'm gonna be hooking up with everybody. That's all I know. And you know what? And that wasn't the case. I didn't feel like hooking up with nobody after that breakup. I wasn't even thinking about a girl after that. And plus, I got a little smarter because I don't paint the red flags white anymore. You know, once I see a red flag, it's a red flag. Because I don't know about you, but when I see the red flag, I go, no, she's okay. I can help her. I can help her. I can help her. So I wouldn't pay no more, because you know, we crazy in here. We crazy. Because and that was another thing. She wasn't an AA person, but then, you know, you start looking at AA people, that's a whole different woman. You know what I mean? No disrespect to the women. Not in this group. Everybody in here is healthy. But you know, I learned some things, man, going through that process, you know, and it made me a stronger person. You know, one of the things me and my man SB was talking about on the way up here, we were saying that this disease is no joke. It don't matter how much time you have. You know, you could go nuts. Like I was telling Mike on the way up here, I said, hey, man, I know I'm not going to drink, but I might kill a whole bunch of people, though. I know I'm not going to drink. You know, I might go nuts. I might blast myself, but I'm not going to drink over, you know. And, you know, Alcoholics Anonymous has been amazing. You know, it's one of the best things in my life. Like, if you're new in here today, today can be the best day of your life. Right here, right now could be the best day of your life. You know, I used to come in here, and I used to sit, and I used to always listen to the speakers, and I used to feel really good and be pumped up, and I would leave, and I would feel lonely, want to drink or use, because I didn't have any work. I didn't have a God in my life. You know, God is real to me now. I can tell you that. It's really real. It's tangible to me now. Because when things were going good, you asked me, how you doing, Deezer? I would go, man, God is good. Hey, D, how you doing? God is good. But yeah, is God still good when you're not working? Is God still good when your wife left you? Is that still the same God you talk about? Is he still good? And I had to go, wow. And I was telling Mike on the way up here, too. I was like, man, sometimes you got to ask God, like, man, you ain't tricking me, are you? You really real, especially when it starts being a long time and you think something's supposed to happen. And you know, I'm here to tell you that it's real. It's really real in my life. Because if it wasn't, I wouldn't be here in my right mind. You know, I feel good today. Like, that hole in my heart has been taken care of. I know I can get through anything in Alcoholics Anonymous because of the things that I've been through. And I don't say it to be a victim, I say it to be victorious, you know, because it's so many people could come here and make it be a victim. Look what happened to me, look what happened to me. I'm here to bear witness that you can get through the things that we go through. And you know, one of the things that really helped me too, besides going through the book and God, was we talked about the fellowship. And you know what I always say about that? If you don't fellowship, you're gonna be the only fellow in the ship. And it's gonna sink real quick, you know, and it's been really, really good, man, Alcoholics Anonymous. So if you're new in here today, man, seriously, don't leave without a sponsor. Don't leave without a big book. You know, you can leave with some tools today to get you started, you know. Good to see you, Jeff. I just had to give you props from the podium. I miss you, man. But anyway, man, I love you guys. I may not be what I want to be, but thank God I'm not what I used to be. Life is good today. So thank you guys for letting me share.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. And let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. And if that shows up, the gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.